everyone, it's time to go through the second half of your hot takes. So without any further delay, let's get started. Jumping out as a mechanic should be removed. Jumping to a teammate should be kept in the game no matter what, but jumping out to escape bad fights or an opponent rushing you down, especially with how people got better at it, is just annoying. It makes flanking the backline feel a lot worse, and people who make mistakes with their fights can get away with it. Jumping to teammates would be a more skillful alternative that rewards good awareness, and it would make beacons a lot better and more interesting. I 100% agree. It definitely would inflate beacons a bit in terms of where they are, just because of the ability to jump back being an option if you had a beacon in spawn, as well as being able to super jump if you don't have any teammates, which if you couldn't jump to spawn would be a thing. You literally wouldn't be able to super jump if you didn't have beacons because there'd be no one to jump to. I'm glad jumping out was nerfed in this game since you aren't invincible when you jump back to your spawn, but it still is pretty much impossible to punish unless you have like a Zipcaster or Trizooka or something. I think jumping out being removed so that you have to make a decision for jumping to teammates is a lot more fair. Recyclebrella being a one-shot would fix one of its similarities with Splatbrella and improve its more Slayer-focused playstyle. I agree. I think there are other creative ways you could balance around Recycle's gimmick, but making it a one-shot isn't a bad idea. It would probably have to be only up close like with Tent though, but it of course keeps its really good damage spread for longer range. I also think that for people who want more shotgun-style weapons, while Brellas do fit that, having one that's less centered around the shield mechanic and more around the whole shotgun aspect is good for people who enjoy playing that type of weapon. So I think that'd be an interesting way to balance around it. Limiting kits was a good idea, as in theory it would allow the developers to focus more on balancing fewer kits and wouldn't lead to as many outliers that didn't have time to receive proper nerfs or changes before meta development. Does having more kits in the game make the game more difficult to balance? Absolutely. But there is a point where having fewer kits in the game makes you feel artificially limited with the amount of options you're actually able to pick, particularly in terms of certain special options. I think missiles would be much more relevant to the game if they weren't stuck on the 5 weapons they were right now. Same for something like Triple Splashdown. And at the end of the day, while balance is of course very important, if it doesn't feel like you have enough options for the tools put into the game, then even the best kind of balance isn't going to be enough to make up for that feeling. And we know that because we are literally in the best era of balance that has ever existed, and it's very clearly still a problem. Hot take, not every weapon should get a top tier kit. I think slapping Burst, Cooler, or a Torp Crab on a weapon's perfect kit dumbs down the playstyle and uniqueness. I'm not saying these kits are bad fun-wise, but competitively there's more room for creativity. Hope we get the Splatoon 2 kit style back. I personally don't hope we get the Splatoon 2 kit style back, because those were made to be intentionally limiting, and what happened is the few kits that happened to get really synergistic combos ended up being good. If you look back at the total amount of Splatoon kits, you will find so many random unsynergistic combos that you basically never saw. I don't think that's the solution. Now, I'm not trying to say the take as a whole is wrong. Not every weapon needs its literal perfect kit, but I don't think that having a perfect kit necessarily dumbs down a weapon's playstyle. I think options like Torp that have flexibility between how they're used, if anything, can add depth. But there obviously has to be a balance to the point where a weapon could have multiple relevant kits that you switch between, as well as having them feel strong enough. I think Splatoon 3's actually done a relatively good job at doing that. If we had third kits for every weapon, I think basically every weapon in the game would end up having something that works for it, if not multiple kits. And the only reason it isn't really that appreciated is the lack of third kits in this game. So in my opinion, I think the way they've handled kits in Splatoon 3 is mostly fine. Every single mode should have specific maps to it. It would allow each mode to shine far more for the maps due to them being specifically designed with the mechanics of the mode in mind. This would overall contribute to higher quality maps and increase the amount of unique ideas due to them not having to worry about the maps working in every single mode. This has been a change I've wanted since before Splatoon 3. I get that for some people the variety will be toned back, but let me put it this way. There are 120 map modes in this game. Do you feel like we need all of them? Because I don't. We're only restricted to 2 per rotation anyway. There's no way we're gonna see that many. If anything, having so many of them makes the few of these I do enjoy very unlikely to happen. While I don't like the rotation system for being a rotation system, I would probably be able to deal with it a lot more if the quality was up and the quantity was down, so at least most of the rotations would be good. I think Splatoon 3 is the game where there's been a big divide between the enjoyment of a lot of ranked modes. Some people really don't like Clams and Rainmaker, especially in solo. While the competitive scene likes Zones a lot, I know there's a big divide for that too. Frankly, the only mode I don't see a whole lot of discussion about is Tower Control, which is one I've just personally think has the most boring objective. To me, the modes being relatively unchanged between games is one of those things that really needs to be adjusted in the next one. They do feel like they're long overdue for some necessary changes, and I think this is the way to go around them. If you want the modes to shine more, they need to have maps that are better built around those modes. Because right now, you can really tell that most of the maps in the game don't work for a vast majority in the modes, and that has to change for me. Angle Shooter and other utility subs work way better than people give them credit for. They're just picky with which weapons they work with, and the kit system screwed them over quite a bit. I would perfectly agree with this take if it didn't include Angle Shooter. Because for stuff like Beacon or Ink Mine or Sprinkler, I absolutely agree. These subs are great when they're on the right weapons and are just more picky about them. But I don't think you're saving Dart, even this version of Dart. And the reason I think that is Dart is still a problem on Rapid Pro Deco. By far its most synergistic option. In fact, I don't think there's another weapon in the game that could have better synergy with Dart, and it's still a downside. It contributes to the weapon being more easy to rush down, which is its main weakness right now, even though it's literally a sub that can combo for a faster kill. So I agree outside of Angle Shooter. Splatoon 4 should be more willing to either fully revamp or cut certain lame or annoying weapons and replace them with more interesting ideas, like what they did with turning Dual Sculpture into Dually Sculpture. For example, giving Splattershot Nova some kind of wacky or whimsical shots to fit with it being a space laser gun as opposed to long aerospray. Yeah, I do think we're hitting the point where, at least for most classes in the game, definitely not all of them, there are a good enough variety of options, like Splatlings, Sloshers, anything with like 6 to 7 weapons or more. At that point, I think it's more important to start improving the quality of existing weapons rather than adding new ones. And there are definitely a lot of weapons that could use some kind of tweaking or revamp. And personally, that's what I'd like to see more for Splatoon 4. I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, but I'd love to see a segment of the Direct that goes over, look at this weapon, now it can do this thing, and totally reinvent or add to them. Splatoon 2 did that a little bit by adding stuff like vertical flicks to rollers or charge hold for chargers. I'd just like to see that with a few more specific weapons. That'd be a really cool way to improve the quality of things without bloating the amount of weapons in the game. They should bring back the old Rainmaker shot. I mean, the old Rainmaker shot did feel more fun to use for sure compared to the current one, but I don't know if that's the answer. I've held a complaint for a while that I think Rainmaker as a weapon just isn't as fun to use as it used to be, but I think there has to be a balance between the janky, broken Splatoon 1 shot and the relatively underwhelming but still very annoying lobbed shot we have in Splatoon 2. Basically what I'm saying is, maybe don't bring back the old one, but definitely don't bring back the one we have right now either. And that is everything I had time to go over. Thanks so much for submitting, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you all next time.